and welcome back to the Rivals Report, the show that gets you up to speed on Rivals Esports news in a nice, bite-sized package. My name is Diatonic, and this is the Rivals Report number 27 for the week of December 8th, 2025. On this week's report, happy first year anniversary to Marvel Rivals. It's been a full year since the game's launch, and we're celebrating by checking in with some of the faces of the competitive scene. Don't miss our Rivals Roundtable Anniversary Edition. And later, we're going inside the booth for the conclusion of the Collegiate Rivals Series Fall Playoffs, and find out who's advancing to the playoffs in Season 1 of the Menace Rivals League. Well, as of this past weekend, Marvel Rivals is officially 1 year old. There's plenty of celebrating to be done in-game, with a whole new lineup of commemorative skins in the shop and a slew of free rewards to be earned. And you can spot several Rivals fans, pros, and content creators on the screens of Times Square right now. Of course, the Rivals Report is celebrating the occasion as well by taking some time to check in with the faces and voices of the competitive Rivals scene. Welcome to the Rivals Roundtable Anniversary Edition. We checked in with a handful of Ignite casters to get their takes on the past year of Rivals and where we're headed in the future. We asked them all the same questions and have prepared a montage of their answers for you. To kick things off, we asked what region is being slept on going into next season.
But in particular, Asia have had the most drastic ramp of improvement. OCE is also worth looking at as well, because they have also they were a big surprise in stage 1 for mid-season finals, and then everyone knew they were going to be good going into grand finals.
I feel like Oceania at the current moment, I say like in the short term, definitely it's Oceania. They've been going crazy, especially in Guangzhou, especially in Atlanta, with Chopper Mag and Ground Zero, respectively.
Me, completely unbiased, it's gonna have to be Antarctica. No, I'm joking. It's gonna be OCE 100%.
The OCE and China regions are two underrated regions. During my time as a coach, I clearly felt a significant gap or disparity within the China and OCE regions.
What do you think is the most iconic match or moment of the year?
Grand finals, Crisis coming in as the substitute player and helping Na'Vi take their one map versus Virtus Pro is beautiful.
Asia Stage 1 Grand Finals. That's gotta be my vote. There is you don't see a best of 7 go to 8 maps. That doesn't happen ever.
Well, I would have to say the lower bracket semifinals, it was literally make or break for Rad and Citadel Gaming in the mid-season finals. It was a crazy matchup, and that was, I think, the matchup where Rad put themselves on the map and said, we're going to take it all.
It should be FlyQuest versus Na'Vi on the map Heart of Heaven. I saw a Spark Chief getting emotional, even shedding tears during the match. The final score was 5-4. It was truly an incredible and unforgettable match.
What moment stands out to you in your Rivals casting career thus far?
Every moment. I love my job. I really, really do. I quit esports many years ago because I used to do some stuff for the other company that we won't mention. I love my job. Everything stands out because it's fun.
Once I got the okay to be casting at Atlanta, that's when it actually hit me yo, I'm actually a professional level caster now, and I don't know, that's me being there for the first time ever casting a tier 1 LAN is incredibly special.
Look, for me, I think that moment of we made it, time to lock in, was walking into the arena in the mid-season finals in China. Being flown out is insane. But the moment I walked in, I was like, oh, it's not an office facility. This is a 5-story arena built, dedicated for Marvel Rivals. I was like, I have to cast 10 times better than I've ever casted before. And I was like, this is it now.
I am proud every single day to be a Marvel Rival caster. The viewing experience for Marvel Rival matches is excellent. You never know the outcome until the very last moment. Every storyline twist is unexpected.
What's the most important thing Rivals Esports got right in year 1?
I think the level of production for the live events, I think, was spectacular. The stage work is always fantastic.
Having the bare bones of a professional circuit, that is very, very difficult to do, especially when you drop the game within a year.
Easily, including OCE. I've heard of countless games drop out OCE from their region list. The fact that they said year one, OCE has its own dedicated region, immediately that was the best decision because you showed that you care about everybody.
I think the most successful aspect was shadowing match across the two time zones, the mid-season in China and the finals in the US. This meant fans didn't have to stay up all night watching match for the entire year.
What's the most important thing you feel needs to improve in year 2?
Getting content creators involved with the esports side, because NetEase have actually been doing pretty well with it. I just like it so much that I think there should be more.
110% the marketing. I saw posts regarding Ignite Stage 2, at least for Asia. There were not a lot of teams entered. I don't know why, but definitely one of the culprits is the marketing aspect.
100% communication of the roadmap. I think everybody, org owners, players, coaches, casters, journalists like yourself, of course, content creators, Marvel Rivals partners, everyone needs an idea of how the year is going to go.
First is team skin. I believe team skins are a great way to increase team revenue, which would attract more clubs to join this. Second is the overly long off-season. I would prefer to have 3 offline tournaments within a year to ensure the off-season isn't so protracted.
What would you say to the fans in regards to year 2 of Rivals?
Keep watching. Like, the game is fun. Like, the fact is, the esports is being brought to you because the game is spectacular, with big fans of Marvel, most likely, if you're watching the games right now.
To everyone out there, thank you for supporting me. Obviously, this is the biggest step in my casting career, and I've seen a lot of support coming in from the community, so thank you for that.
At the end of the day, happy anniversary to Marvel Rivals, of course, first and foremost. One of the greatest years of my life. I only think it's just beginning for everyone. The fun's about to get doubled up. It's about to get doubled up, all right?
I hope Marvel Rival can be included in the EWC. This is very important for the esports ecosystem of Marvel Rival. I saw in Season 4 MRC that players from Saudi Arabia made up the largest population within the EMEA region. I think this game is quite popular in Saudi Arabia. I hope it can enter the EWC, which would likely lead to more clubs joining.
And finally, as we value hard-hitting journalism here at the Rivals Report, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Good question. I think a hot dog is a taco.
Cause okay. So the buns are attached to each other, right?
I'm team hot dog is its own legend.
So a sandwich is a center filling between two pieces of bread.
But once you detach them, it technically is a really long sandwich. It's almost like a sub.
A folded sandwich is, I think, widely publicly considered to be a sandwich. So I think that's equally viable here.
If a hot dog is a sandwich, then is a taco a folded sandwich?
But if you detach the bun, so like if the bun is attached, I mean, I would say technically, yeah.
Let's keep the debates going. Drop your talk in the chat.
Well, there you have it. A look back at the first year of Rivals through the lens of some of its most prominent figures. It's been a wild first year of Marvel Rivals, and for NetEase as well. The game has received numerous awards and nominations throughout its first year of existence, a massive first year that's certainly worth celebrating. NetEase were most recently recognized as one of the top esports publishers of the year, standing on the same podium as Riot Games in the end. And there's plenty more where that came from, as the game heads full steam ahead into its second year of life. For myself, it's been an absolutely unreal year as well. I began playing Rivals on launch day, but this journey of both content and casting started in June. Ever since then, we've delivered the latest in Rivals esports news to you every single week, and I'm incredibly grateful for all of you that have watched. But this is truly just the beginning. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone that's watched, subscribed, interacted with me, and welcomed me into this world. I hope you'll continue to support me and the channel into 2026, as we have every intention to continue. From anniversary celebrations to the crowning of several new community champions, it's an incredibly busy time in Rivals, even in spite of it being the off-season. To kick off our community tournament roundup, we have to start with a thrilling conclusion to the Collegiate Rivals Series Fall Playoffs. The final matches took place on Sunday and were the culmination of 10 weeks of hard work on behalf of the student competitors and staff behind the league. 6 teams survived to this second day of playoff contention, but only one can be crowned the fall champions. I had the honor of being in the booth alongside the full caster crew at the CRS for this historic moment. The final day of playoffs began with a lower bracket showdown between the number 1 seed Indiana Tech and the number 10 seed USC Cardinals. Random domination maps were on deck for round 1, so we headed for Hell's Heaven to get the series started. These two teams were ready for a brawl as the series got underway, and they duke it out in 2 99-99 overtime battles, but Indiana Tech would secure a map 1 win, incredibly contested as it was. Central Park was up next, with USC on the attack first. They had a long dry spell on checkpoint number 1, and were eventually able to get the payload unlocked and rolling, but the Warriors came back after halftime and plowed through the USC defense for a second map win. Yggdrasil Path was on the docket for map 3, and USC would put up a serious fight here. They nearly cleared the map, leaving Indiana with the totality of Yggdrasil Path ahead of them, but the Warriors would power through. It had turned into absolute chaos at the end of Indiana's run, with ults slinging in every direction, but it'd be Indiana Tech on top in the end. While Indiana Tech moved on to face Rutgers in the lower bracket semis, we moved to the upper bracket finals between number 5 seed Nebraska and number 2 seed Georgia Tech Gold. We were off to Burnin' T'Challa for the opener of this one, and Georgia would come out the gate swinging here, delivering a map 1 stunner to Nebraska. They'd look to battle back on Symbiotic Surface next, and though Nebraska made some strides here, they'd be in the red zone after another Georgia Tech win. Midtown was the first chance for Georgia to close this out, but something changed here. Nebraska came blazing out the gate, running a visceral offense down the mean streets of New York. Even after taking Nebraska to extra rounds, that offense was just too hot to touch, and we'd make for Hall of Djalia next. Nebraska were stopped just short of checkpoint 2, and pulled out an absolutely insane defensive stop to stay alive in the series and get to map 5. It'd be Yggdrasil Path as the stage for that final showdown, and Nebraska would clear this map too. They'd go on to lock Georgia Tech down before the second checkpoint and would complete the reverse sweep to punch their ticket to Grand Finals. Indiana Tech and Georgia Tech would do battle over the other Grand Finals slot in the lower bracket. The battle began on Hell's Heaven, where Georgia would win yet another domination map, but Indiana Tech were squarely in their rearview mirror. Central Park was up next once again, and both teams would blast through to Dracula's castle for dueling map clears. Indiana Tech would have a slight time bank advantage in the extra rounds, and after a solid defensive effort from the Warriors, they'd even the score and make it a series. They'd break that tie on Yggdrasil Path next, and though Indiana Tech would nearly clear checkpoint 2, they couldn't find the breakthrough, and Georgia Tech would take the series lead once again with a brutal offensive run. We were bound for Hall of Djalia for map 4, and Indiana had a bit of a misfire on this one. They were up and down like an assembly line, and Georgia Tech would full hold them to take us to yet another map 5. Brushing themselves off, it was time for Midtown for map 5. Indiana Tech would take the attack first and would come so painfully close to clearing the map, but we stopped inches from the finish line. That'd leave the door open for Georgia to win it, but after a miracle hold ahead of checkpoint 2, Indiana Tech would seal the deal and claw their way into the Grand Finals. And then the Grand Finals were set. A rematch against the very team that sent Indiana Tech down to the lower bracket, Nebraska. Indiana would have to find a way to overcome their demons to win this one, while Nebraska just needed to cling to the momentum they built battling against Georgia Tech. But like a good Kraken Impact activation, Nebraska would win again and again and again. Celestial Husk was first, and it'd take all 3 points to decide, but Nebraska would leap out ahead with a big opening map win. The chase continued onto Central Park, where Nebraska would hold Indiana to just 2 ticks on the first checkpoint before swooping in to get their second map win. Sticking to New York for map 3, Indiana Tech would take us to Central Park for the next round, but it seemed as though Nebraska continued picking up steam here. They'd hold Indiana shy of checkpoint 1, then crash through the Indiana defense to advance to match point, still uncontested. Krakoa was the stage for the potential final bout, with Indiana Tech looking to stop a Nebraska sweep here. Indiana fought valiantly, managing to snag the second capture point and bring us to the third. But on that last objective, Nebraska on the brink here. They've dominated the upper bracket, falling to almost no one. They survived from the brink against Georgia Tech, and now they face their final opponents in Indiana Tech. They find KO after KO on the capture point, and they will take it unscathed here in the Grand Finals, and Nebraska are your fall split champions. And after 10 weeks of hard-fought battles, testing their mettle against some of the toughest university teams in the league, and upsetting team after team in their upper bracket run, it was Nebraska standing tall over all other competitors in the end. A successful split in the books, breaking league viewership records in the playoffs, and all culminating in a broadcast that was a blast to watch from end to end. The Collegiate Rivals Series will go dormant while universities across North America finish up the semester. The registration for the spring split is already underway. If you're part of a Collegiate Rivals squad and think you've got what it takes, visit the CRS's website at collegiatemarvelrivals.com and get signed up. And finally this week, on last week's report, we introduced you to the Menace Rivals League, a community tournament dedicated to providing a space for EMEA players to sharpen their skills and prepare for the next year of competitive rivals. We're keeping up with the MRL as they're approaching the end of their season, with playoffs taking place this week as of the time of this upload. But before that, we've got one more set of regular season matches to decide the divisional leaders ahead of playoffs. iRose and Millennium led the charge on this broadcast, taking us to Celestial Husk to get things started. But it was full steam ahead for iRose right out of the gate, finding value around every corner and snagging both points for themselves for the map win. We'd head to Central Park next to potentially decide the series, and iRose were looking scary here yet again. After full holding Millennium with no overtime pop, iRose would flawlessly close out the series with a 130 offensive push, stopping their opponents from scoring a single checkpoint, let alone a map. Black Viper and the league's marquee Menace team would step up to the plate next, kicking this one off on Burnin' T'Challa. This was an intense tug-of-war from start to finish, going all the way to the third and final point with a 99-99 overtime showdown as well. Black Viper would scramble to keep themselves on the point, and they'd dig deep to secure it and take the map 1 win. From Wakanda to New York, we were headed for Midtown next, with Menace pushing through a near ironclad Black Viper defense, clearing the map after an all-out war. It'd be in the hands of the Menace defense here, and they'd deliver a full hold to even the score 1-1. Central Park would serve as the decider, with Menace attacking first. They looked even cleaner here, clearing the map with 1:32 on the clock. Black Viper went for the throat, but found themselves stopped by Menace yet again, and they would take the series win. Crystal Grove and Crimson Eclipse were next into the ring, giving us Krakoa for map 1. Crystal Grove hopped straight into the driver's seat in this series, fending off Crimson Eclipse to take both points of Krakoa and the map win. Back to Midtown as the series reached map 2, with Crimson Eclipse first at bat. This run would result in a massive war of attrition, with Crystal Grove throwing everybody they had to stop Crimson Eclipse, but to no avail. But the Grove would also clear the map, throwing it into extra rounds. But with the time advantage, Crystal Grove would shut down Crimson Eclipse early on before diving back in to score themselves a 2-0 series win. One more match to go for this broadcast, with Get Lost facing off against Militia's Apollo squad on Krakoa to start. This map was an incredibly even clash, taking 1 point each before Apollo leapt out ahead on point number 3. We'd return to Central Park for the second bout, with Apollo attacking first. But they'd be facing off with the Iron Curtain of Get Lost's defense that would full hold them. And after a 2-minute 30-second offensive, Get Lost would take us to a map 3. Apollo would attack first yet again as we moved to Yggdrasil Path, but they'd carve a path of destruction in Yggsgard, clearing the map with 4 seconds left. And Apollo's defense would lock in too, holding Get Lost short of the second checkpoint for the match win. They'd end off the broadcast by announcing the matchups for playoffs. Division 1 winners Iros Iridium would be up against NSA Nova in round 1, and Division 2 winners Blazing Bloom would take on Menace. They'd also announce promotions and demotions over in the Menace Discord. Blazing Bloom, NSA Nova, 01, and Furious would all move up to Division 1 for next season, and Get Lost, Millennium, Crystal Grove, and Crimson Eclipse would all head down to Division 2. They also announced an off-season tournament to be run leading up to the release of Season 5.5 in Rivals later this week. And of course, the MRL will be back in action before long with their upcoming Americas branch as well. We'll bring you updates on that once they get underway. Well, that's all for this week's Rivals Report. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest in Marble Rivals Esports. And be sure to follow me on other platforms including Twitch, X, and TikTok. And if you're looking to get your feet wet in some competitive Rivals action, I'll be hosting and casting the first ever High Tide Marble Rivals Cup alongside my friends at High Tide Gaming. It features a $100 prize pool and is open to players of all skill levels, so squad up and come get in on the action. I've been Diatonic, you've been amazing, and I'll see you in-game.